some reason, motherhood was at odds with this career life that had been put in my mind. It was at odds with it. It was like this whole idea of staying home and being a mom and homeschooling. Like, no, 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 no. Career, we have to be go-getters. We can't be depending on our husbands. And I almost felt like in the last few years, God was convicting me about that. It's like we have to reevaluate. First of all, the different situation. My mom was in a totally different situation
Yes.
than what I'm in. And it's like just learning to let go and let God. Like, let God create that future for you instead of us trying to plan it all out, right?
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Giselle, for being here. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I am excited to share a little bit about you to my audience because I honestly was completely impressed by you when we met. But before we get into all the details, tell us a little bit about you, who is Giselle, what you do.
So thank you so much for having me. I was like, when I got your message, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I get to be on a podcast. My kids are gonna think that I officially made it. I'm like, yes. Giselle, I was a teacher for 10 years. I thought that was my calling. I thought that was it for me. I'm like, I'm gonna die a teacher. This is what fulfills me. And then COVID happened, and then different things happened, and I decided to kind of do a whole 180 and try something new. So I decided to start my first business, which was like a photo booth business. And then after that one, I decided to start homeschooling my kids. And then I was like, I could do some more. So I decided to actually take on my mom's business, which is actually two separate brands, Quinceañeras by Maritzas and Weddings by Maritzas. So in a matter of like 2 or 3 years, I acquired 3 businesses, all in the event industry.
Wow.
It's been very exciting just exploring entrepreneurship while being a Christian and kind of merging the two. It's been very different, and I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun. It's yeah, and I also started a coffee shop as well last year.
I
So
know. I saw,
yeah,
as the sun is a little bit going a little crazy right now, but I noticed that. And that's when I decided to reach out to you when I noticed that you had all these businesses. I'm like, look at this, Miss Entrepreneur here. That's why, I was like, oh my God, I should reach out to her and see if she could be on the podcast. Let me tell people a little bit how we met. So like I am currently planning my daughter's sweet 16, and Giselle is our party decorator and planner. So, I really am so excited. Like I said, when Camila and I met you, you just like you were so chill and just kind of gave us room to breathe and so I wanted her to feel comfortable with the person that was going to decorate the party so
yeah.
that she can kind of feel comfortable telling them like what she likes and what she doesn't like. And you really did that for her. And when I saw that and I asked her like, so what do you think? We did meet it with a few people, and she was like, I really like Giselle. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's why we went with you. Besides the fact that you did an amazing job in designing it for us and kind of helping us bring it to life. And then when I saw you had, the King Says by Maritzas, and then when I saw the coffee shop, that's when I was like, okay, I need to reach out to her and find out, like what your story is. So you said, so you started doing this, you said 5 years ago when pandemic hit.
So in 2020 during COVID, I think like most of us, we started reevaluating our lives, right? And that's when I started rethinking the whole just being called to teach, right? That's so in 2021, I started Heavenly Joy Photo Booth. That was my first official business. And I actually just started homeschooling my kids. This is my second year homeschooling. So
Okay.
2020 was what kind of got my brain rolling into being open to something different than what I had envisioned. I already had my life planned out. I'm like, I'm going to retire at 62 as a teacher, and then I'm going to do this and that. But after COVID, I think like most people, right, we had so much time to just think. I started seeing things in a different light. So 2021 was when I officially started the photo booth business. So 4 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And how did it feel to take that leap of faith for you? To leave something that I think that a lot of women, myself included, are planners like that. Like we have our whole entire life planned out, right? And then something happens that kind of just, I like to call it, that just kind of wakes us up.
Yeah.
And we realize that there are other options and
Yes.
other alternatives, right? Um, so at what point, like what was that like aha moment for you that you realized like, wait a minute, this is not really what I wanted, or like, or this looks so much better, like so much like a better option.
I'm going to be honest, it was a sermon from my pastor. So I had always seen um, my Christ given calling as so separate from my worldly job, right? To the point where I had been teaching at public school for 5 years, and then I was like, oh my goodness, I want to do something that's Christ centered. I want to be, working in my calling. So I went to a Christian school because I was like, now I get to be, serving in the house of God and also being a teacher at the same time. It doesn't get better than this. But then I heard a sermon from my pastor, and he was talking about entrepreneurship and how serving God's people and loving them in whatever business you're in or whatever career you're given. As a citizen, I would love that if I get pulled over by a cop, that it's a Christian cop or a person who's God fearing and isn't going to mistreat me. Or if I end up having to go to a grocery store, having a cashier who just greets me with a smile, and all those little moments make my life better. And he was just talking about how we see the two at odds and they're not. And I think that opened a door for me because growing up, I resented entrepreneurship to the core. So my mom, because she had these businesses, we rarely saw her. And I knew she had to work, right? Immigrant family, she had to work. There was no choice. But I hated that she couldn't like go to my soccer games because of business. On Saturdays, we couldn't make plans because we had to go out with her and help her decorate. So I was like, I will never, ever have my own business because you're going from a regular 8-hour job to a 24/7 job. As most of us entrepreneurs know, that's often true.
Yeah.
So I resented it, and I was like, that will never ever be me. I will, just, as a teacher, we did work some extra hours. It wasn't, we didn't clock out at 3, but it was better than what I grew up with, where my mom, it was like 8 a.m., she was gone. She wouldn't come back till like 9 p.m. because she had no choice. So I think that sermon from my pastor opened the door and got me curious, which is why I started with something small like the photo booth business, because the photo booth business was simple. It was an actual brick and mortar location. So it was mostly remote. I was able to hire out people to go to the gigs for me. So I was able to be hands off while still being able to be a mom. So it was a nice way to get my feet wet. And then I kind of liked it. And then I took on all this other stuff. So
So
yeah,
how did it go from you from doing the photo business to then taking over your mom's business?
yeah. So it was actually not too bad because with my mom's business, she remains helping me out. So I still get to manage it from home. So, like when clients call in, I'm the one that takes the calls. I did have an answering service for a while, but that didn't go too well. It was not personable enough. So I answer the calls and then I schedule the appointment and then I only manage the event design portion. So I'll have virtual consultations with clients, but I still have employees at the store that get to meet with the client in person. So I don't have to be there, which is what I wanted. I didn't want a job like my mom where she was the business. And if she didn't go to work, she didn't get paid. If she didn't go in, it was just panic. So the businesses that I've established, they don't depend on me, which is what I love because my number one priority in this season is just my kids. So I get to still do that while being hands off. Like the coffee shop, I only do admin stuff like payroll, and then the rest of it runs itself. So I'm so blessed by that. And that's the vision God gave me. It was like, kids are number one. I need you to homeschool them. That's your number one calling in this season, right? Because we know later on things will change, but in this
Yeah.
season, and then the businesses, they kind of manage themselves pretty well. If I can't go in, it's okay, and it works pretty well. Thank God.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah.
And so for you, it was really important, and I can totally relate to that. Because like I mentioned before, as a TV reporter before, I wanted to be like I loved my job and my career that thankfully I still get to do, but it's also because I knew that I needed a change because I wanted to be there for my kids too.
Yes.
And I think we're kind of reinventing, it's not like reinventing the wheel necessarily, but like we are learning to do things differently,
Yeah.
right? Like you can still do what you want, but maybe in a different way. You resented your mom's job because of the way that it took her away from you, right? When you were little, but then you ended up taking over, but you did it in a different way. And that's a really, I think that's a really big lesson for people, for women to learn, that if you want to do something, you might be able to do it on your terms, right?
Absolutely. And when I first told my mom and my family that I was going to step down from teaching, they panicked because they're like, tú eres una profesional, como, because I was just gonna do my photo booth business, and I was like, I'll figure it out. I didn't have my mom's business yet, and she's like, tú eres una profesional, you went to school for so many years, and now you're just gonna stay home, and like, what's going on? And it was like panic set in on her because she's like, this is what I prepared you for. I sacrificed myself so that you can go and achieve what you're already in, which is teaching. So there was some pushback, but I think that when they saw that I was happy, the kids were happy, and financially we're doing pretty well, she was like, oh, okay, so now let's transition and maybe you could take over the business. So I think if we're brave and you know doing everything prayerfully, right, doing everything prayerfully, he's gonna make it work out. He just is, and I'm so grateful for where
Absolutely.
he's brought me. But it was difficult. It was a tough decision to make, to step down from teaching, because like I said, that was my identity. But I just felt like in that season it was the right thing to do.
I love that. So I want to kind of ask you a little bit about your upbringing, where your family is from. I think that's always important to so that, when we hear stories that are very similar to ours, we tend to connect.
Yeah.
And, I love that you said that your mom was like, tú eres una profesional, because I think we've all heard that, right?
Yes.
When we're trying to do some crazy things according to them, they're like, hold up a second, I didn't sacrifice so that you could go to college y ser una profesional para entonces ahora hacer otra cosa.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
So growing up, I'm Dominican on both sides. My stepdad, who's Peruvian, raised me, and my parents, like most immigrant families, it was work, 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 work. There was four of us, me, my older sister, and we have two twin sisters. It's a 10-year age gap. So they'd go to work in the morning. We'd come home from school. Sometimes my dad was home, sometimes not. We took care of the girls. I remember we were in New York, and we would take two buses to go pick them up in daycare in the projects, but it didn't matter to us. We were like, I think I was like 12 or 13, and I would jump on a bus with my sister and we'd go get them. And it's funny because my son is 14 and my daughter's 10, and I wouldn't let them get on a bus. I'm like, what if I was in Brooklyn getting on buses? But that's besides the
Same
story.
here.
Yeah, my sister would cook for us. So if like sometimes my mom at night when she'd get home like at 8 o'clock, she'd cook for a few days. But if not, my sister would cook. I'd clean. We'd do our work. No one checked our work. I was translating legal documents by the time I was like 8 because my parents did not speak English. So, and I think a lot of us can relate to that story. Our parents
Yeah.
depended on us a lot. And my mom would always tell me, I'm sacrificing myself now so you can get an education. Education is your ticket out, right? You get an education, you go to college so that you can provide for your family and not have to work this hard. And that's the mentality I grew up with. And I could see nothing besides the fact that I had to succeed because I had to make my mom proud. My biggest fear was just letting her down, right? I was like, so all four of us have gone to college. Some of us have the masters. There's three teachers. There's one nurse, right? That was the goal. That was
Wow.
it. And I saw nothing else besides that. But in 2020, right, we start exploring different ideas, and all of a sudden, like
Yeah.
in the past few years, for some reason motherhood was at odds with this career life that had been put in my mind. It was at odds with it. It was like this whole idea of staying home and being a mom and homeschooling, like, no, 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 no. Career, we have to be go-getters. We can't be depending on our husbands. And I almost felt like in the last few years, God was convicting me about that. It's like we have to reevaluate, first of all, the different situation. My mom was in a totally different situation
Yes.
than what I'm in. And it's like just learning to let go and let God, like, let God create that future for you instead of us trying to plan it all out, right? And I found
Exactly.
such peace even when I did stay home, managing the photo booth business. I felt at peace, like I can depend on my husband to support me, and he's not going to shove it in my face. He's not going to mistreat me. Like motherhood is not all that bad. Let me stay home with my kids. Let me raise my kids. And I found honor and dignity in that, where before I saw it as a loss of dignity. Like I would be letting my mom down. I would be una mantenida. And that whole mindset shift. I don't know, it allowed me to step into my femininity and into my boss era in a way where I get to be soft, I get to be home, and I also get to run a few businesses. So,
And I think that's a great lesson because yes, I feel that you know, like our mothers had to, had no choice, but we do.
yes,
And but we have the choice whether we want to work outside of the home or raise our kids, full time. Those are, at least we have the options. And I think that's really the important thing, right? That we have the option and that we give ourselves a little bit of grace,
yes,
that it's okay if you want to stay home with your kids. And it's also okay if you want to go out and work, because I think they both kind of bring something, right?
yes,
And God uses us to, in whatever way He wants. He uses our circumstances regardless,
yes,
right? And so I don't feel there's like a right or wrong way. But I love that you said that, because it's like we are so affected by our parents experience, especially our immigrant parents experience, right? Like I grew up the same way, thinking that, my mom used to always tell me, Lucy, te tienes que hacer una profesional para
yes,
que no le aguantes nada a ningún hombre. So I grew up like that,
yes.
right? And
But
and
we
I
get where they're coming from. We're like, oh, I because of what you went through, you think that way, but we didn't go through that. Thank the Lord. So we
yes,
can
and
depend
now
on our husbands a little bit more.
yes,
Trust me.
exactly. So like we are very lucky, I'm also married, and we're very lucky to have great husbands, right?
Yes,
But we also understand that not all women have the same luck and
100%.
circumstances. So I feel like it's important to give grace, because to wherever you are in your life, but know that God will always use you and use your kids, whether we want to or not. We will kind of traumatize our kids in a way,
We are.
you know.
We are.
And then they'll have to deal with, obviously not as always, hopefully
Yes.
the goal is to always improve, right? um
You know
but
what I've noticed, Luz? It's the way they perceive it. Because I'm like,
yes,
you have everything, and they'll still have trauma. They'll still be going to a therapist and both of them are going to have totally different experiences of how they received what we gave them. You know what I
yep,
mean? So it's like I gave up. I can
definitely.
keep them out of the therapist office when they get older. Like I'm done. I'm just going to be me because I know that no matter what, there's still going to be like that misinterpret. Like even with my mom, my sister, she'll be like, "Mom worked her butt off." Like she had to do it, and then I'm like, you know what, she did have to do it. Like we all gotta work with what we have, um and then based on that we come up with our own, like, I will never do this, I will always do this.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, I really love what you said before, how you created these businesses so that you could, which is why I wanted, like, I just love entrepreneurship for women, especially, it's not for everybody, but for those women that are called to. I mean, I think you're a perfect example of how you can make it work for you. And then you created this so that they kind of run themselves. Obviously you're not physically there all the time. What has this journey for you helped you learn about yourself?
um Something that it's helped me learn about myself is that I love giving the idea, I don't like maintaining it, which is why delegating has come in so important. Like, I love just coming up with an idea, like, oh, I want to do this. Like, even with the coffee shop, I want to have a coffee shop. It doesn't necessarily mean I need to carry all of it. It doesn't mean I need to be making coffee, making the pastries, signing up our Uber Eats account. It doesn't mean all that. It can mean I have the idea, I'm the visionary, I'm saying I want a coffee shop, and then we put people strategically in place to execute their giftings. My baker loves his job. He could bake all day. You're going to be my baker. My barista, she loves greeting clients and making her coffee. You're going to be my barista. So learning that I don't have to carry it all, which is actually something that I used to do in church. I'd be like, I have this vision for this thriving kids ministry. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to be the teacher on Sunday. I'm going to be the one that starts the kids praise dance team. And I'm like, you find yourself exhausted and you're wondering why. And it's because you're carrying so many things, none of which God has called you to, right?
Yes,
So I've
definitely.
learned that just because I have the vision for it doesn't mean that I have to be the one carrying all the weight. And yeah, even in the home, right? Sometimes we have this vision for this lovely family that we want to have, this picture perfect family. And there was a season in my life where I found myself carrying a lot of the weight. I was the disciplinarian, I was the teacher, I was the one running to all the sports. And I was like, wait a minute, pause, right? I started delegating some of that to my husband. And mind you, it wasn't that my husband was saying no, it's just that I felt like I could do it better. So I was taking away his authority and his power and his responsibilities because I thought I could do it better. So I've learned to like, no, let everyone work in their giftings, right? Now he's a great disciplinarian. And I'm like, I get to be the good cop. So it works out. We don't have to carry it all just because we envision it.
So I love what you just said because, one of the things that I think a lot of us women need to remember is that we don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
And that's a really big load that we tend to do to us, right? To ourselves. Whether it doesn't matter because that happens to me too, where, because I work from home,
Yeah.
I want to do it all. I want to clean. I want to cook. I want to do my 9 to 5. I want to have this podcast. I want to do it all. But the reality is that we can't, right? And I think, like you said, God really doesn't need us to do it all,
Yes.
right? Because then if we are not at our best mentally and physically, because we're trying to do it all, then we're spreading ourselves too thin and not really achieving his goal and purpose for us, right?
Absolutely. And you know what I told my husband? I was thinking about the Proverbs 31 woman, and I'm like, she had maid servants. She was phenomenal, but she had maid servants. So I'm like,
Yes.
right, she was able to do it all, but she was delegating. She wasn't doing it all herself. I'm like, she was getting
Yes.
maid servants. She had maid servants. So
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that is so true. And so again, if ladies that are listening, if you think in order to go after your dreams, whatever that may look like for you, you don't have to do it all. It is okay to delegate certain things, including maybe some help with your, with the laundry or, cooking or maybe ordering food service. Like I feel like especially being traditional Latinas, like growing up in a traditional household, right? But like in my house, even though my mom worked, it was like she was one who cooked. And I mean, we cleaned also. My mom was make sure that we learned how to clean. Those Saturday mornings, right?
yes.
Yes. But like they took on so much
Yeah.
that it really translated for us to also be like worthy as wives and moms, that we have to also learn to do it all. And I have learned recently in the past few years that I can, especially after I started working at home, that we
Yes.
can do it all. And it is okay to delegate and do it. So I just love that. I love that, Giselle, that, that is your story and that you're sharing that, because I feel like so many women need to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And
Definitely.
I think that for a long time I wore busyness as a badge of honor, and I've realized that busyness is not a badge of honor. And I was so
No.
proud of it. I was like, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I'm still going. And it's like, no, 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 no. Step back, and just be, and it's great.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, you are doing my daughter's Sweet 16, which we are very excited about. That's very interesting that I guess obviously I didn't think about it until it was almost time for my daughter to celebrate this milestone in her life. But have you found that this tradition is continuing strong in the Latino community, celebrating los quinces and the Sweet 16 and things like that? Or, have you kind of seen it dip and then, come back up?
I think it's definitely going strong. I don't know about what your experience was like as a Latina, but growing up, I don't remember going to many quinceañeras. I don't remember, and I don't know if it was just like my demographics, but it wasn't such a hot thing. Now it's taken on to the American culture as well. So now we have like the Sweet 16s with the American culture, and now it becomes fads in this high school. So many times we'll have a girl and she'll bring like all her friends, and they're doing her Sweet 16 and the Sweet 16 and quinceañera as well. So it's really become a like either they're having a party or they're having something, but it's getting celebrated.
Yes.
And it's a total trend, especially now with TikTok. those sophomores and those freshmen, they're sharing these videos about different things that they can do, and it's becoming popular.
All right. So what is next for Quinces by Maritza or Weddings by Maritza? Well, what's next for Giselle Velasquez, the super entrepreneur?
So this year, my goal is just to work on systems. I want to keep automating things and keep being more hands off, where I'm still able to do the client portion of meeting them, which is what I love, but also being able to have systems in place so the business runs itself. I know that's not a very exciting what's next, but that really is my goal this year. And my goal is for my businesses to run themselves. That's the ultimate goal, where we can still enjoy the parts that we like, but we can step into it and step out of it without it affecting the business's success.
Girl, that is a huge goal. That's what I want too. That is incredible. I mean, that is a big thing to achieve, and you've achieved it mostly. So, you know, that's huge, and I know that that's what a lot of women want to do.
Yeah.
So I think my last question for you is like, what lessons have you learned that you wish other women would take from you today?
The biggest lesson I've learned is to just depend on the leading of the Holy Spirit. And I can't emphasize it enough. I thought I had my whole future just planned out step by step. And I would, pray about it all the time. I'm like, Lord, when I get to this chapter, blah, 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 when I get to this, and it's like, wait a minute, let's do a prayer of surrender. Lord, what would you have me do next? This is what I foresee, but what would you have me do? And when I started praying in that way, that prayer of surrender, my whole life changed, because I realized that the path that I had already set for myself was actually not really the path that the Lord wanted me in. And what he had was so much better. It was scary. Entrepreneurship requires so much dependency and faith. I mean, I miss getting my check every single Friday. Entrepreneurs were the last ones paid. But when I tell you, like, it's required so much faith, and it's scary, but it's been so worth it. And it's so much better than anything I could have just foreseen for myself. It's not without its challenges, but his way really is better. So just that prayer of surrender, no matter what season you are in your life, whether you are home with your kids, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are, on Wall Street, whatever job you have, whatever God has called you to, just a prayer of surrender. That way we know what God has called us to. It doesn't have to be exactly what our parents did or what our parents trained us to do. Maybe it could be something totally different. So yeah.
I love that. And you definitely proved that to be true. It's not what your mom, what you experienced with your mom, but you made it your own. And that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Giselle, for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun too.
Thank you.
Tell us, how can people find you?
So you guys can find us on Instagram. We have weddings at Weddings by Maritza's. We have Quinces by Maritza's Cafecito Shop LLC, and we have Heavenly Joy Photo Booth, all on Instagram, and we also have the websites as well. So if you come to my page, you'll see them all listed. So Giselle Velasquez.
Okay, I will definitely put all of them in the show notes, so you can find them there.
Thank you so much. Take care.